crazy.
Yeah.
And you said that since the pauper community are the ones that play it, that you would listen to what they had to say about what cards should be banned and restricted. So,
I mean, I would specifically, I would like for what the Commander community has done with their website, where they are ingrained with the ban and restriction lists. I would love that for all of the specialty formats for Magic Online, where we help take direction from the community at large. Right now, I know that there's the proper website, but we don't have that relationship yet with them, where we are comfortable just saying, hey, you make the decisions and we'll make the changes.
so,
But that's certainly something we would entertain, absolutely.
so basically, if they wanted to sit down and come up with something and write it up and send it to you,
Yeah, we would definitely talk about it. I'd take it upstairs and talk with the team who does all the ban restriction stuff. I mean, Lee Sharp is part of that team for Magic Online, specific formats. So, and then, you know, they're not going to affect any of the core formats, obviously, because we do those internally, but specialty formats, Magic Online specific formats, absolutely. And we do that a little bit too, right, with Kaleidoscope, right? Some of the other formats, like if somebody complains enough about a card, we'll definitely look at it. But it's a different process getting us to do it rather than having somebody suggest a bunch of stuff for us.
This isn't as much a question, because I don't think it's something that you'd be able to implement anytime soon, but it's just sort of a suggestion or an idea that we came up with a while ago. We love drafting in Moto more than playing other stuff, because we still, amongst our group, we do primarily paper playing, and we're not necessarily ready to switch the not small investment of what we do in paper to digital, but we really like the idea of just being like, oh, I feel like a draft, sit down and draft. And just as an idea, would you ever consider something like a monthly subscription fee to just be able to draft, but not keep the cards afterwards? Or as an option, if you then after the draft are like, I actually do want these cards, then have the option to additionally buy out your cards from that draft.
So subscription stuff has been talked about long before I was here, and it comes up occasionally, and we'll discuss it at some level. But I don't know if how seriously we would ever consider a true subscription model in that.
I'm thinking this would be like a different thing.
We do look at we look at players' time and then what players can spend to play Magic Online all the time, and we want to have bands of play opportunities across all format types for all all the restrictions the player have, all of those limitations that they have. So yeah, we're looking at ways to do some stuff where you can play sealed or draft at a lower cost than it would take otherwise. So we're definitely talking about it.
That'd be great, because
Now we
really want to draft more, but I can't quite validate doing it for something that I don't keep the cards afterwards.
Yeah, we certainly have plans, and as we get closer to making those reality, we can start talking about those.
It's got to be a fine line, though, in between cards not entering the system because you don't get to keep the draft singles, right?
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely a consideration, right? It's also a value proposition, right? If we said tomorrow that all drafts were $5, keep the cards,
secondary market
what happens to the rest of the ecosystem, right? It's, players need cards for constructed, so it'll affect that market. If I'm not keeping cards and I'm just paying 5 tickets, I don't even necessarily need booster packs, so what happens to that market? I mean, how do I deal with all of those pieces, and what does it do to the system? So
I think it would also, though, as obviously you have to take into account how it would affect the current player, but I think it would bring in more players.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a consideration, but we would have to look at it and make sure that it doesn't hurt anything first.
So speaking of what we were just talking about, what about the shredder button for...
Yes. shredder button and automated trading.
So we've talked about shredders in the past.
It's always a fun thing to talk to.
Yeah, it is.
Shredders are great.
Yes, they do a lot of good things, but it's, once again, priority-wise, if it had enough impact, we'd definitely talk about it higher up on the list. But here's the thing with the shredder is that I know that people have stuff in their digital collection that they don't want to have to deal with. You don't necessarily need a shredder, Better collection management is effectively a shredder if I don't have to look at those cards anymore, right? So there are ways you can also just dump them on new players as much as you can. It's not as time effective as you would like, but it's just, hey, I'm giving away all my commons. Come talk to me for this hour period, and I'm sure you can at 75 a time.
Well, you say better like collection management. With especially with the qualifier points, there are some people who like only draft on one account and only play constructed on one account. But with the qualifier points, that really is not a good thing to do.
Yep.
Because you're splitting your QPs throughout two or three clients, and I mean I know I've got 26,000 commons from drafting for the last 6 years that it would take me days to get rid of, even giving them away.
But we'd have to look at what the impact is, right? But the impact on those cards, other than in the current client loading your collection, is you have to filter them out when you build the deck. I mean, so what's the impact to the players, and why? What are the use cases for getting rid of the cards on that scale?
Aesthetics.
Yeah, and that's. Does having 26,000 cards prevent you from playing Magic ever?
No.
All right.
No, if you're playing on a low-end machine, though, it sure does slow down when that collection loads up.
Yes. I mean, that is an issue that we would talk about more specifically than players being able to have a nice empty collection.
It helps that there's a server collection server as opposed to it all being in-game like it used to be. But
Like, George, I have multiple accounts, and like I have an account that just is pretty much clear. It's just tickets and like avatars.
Yeah.
And like I was lucky enough to get in 4 Planeswalker cards, so I don't have to deal with them, which is something that
Which I
is a
hear.
real concern with the fact
Which
that
I hear-
when we beat you, that people will have to play the Planeswalker format to get those packs.
Yes.
And then those cards will be plaguing them from here until you guys decide to make them deal.
So, and maybe you guys can help me understand. So, Planeswalker cards, when I go to build a deck and I'm filtering by a format.
No, we usually don't filter by format. We usually just pull out, type in the card, and pull it out.
And the filters in the deck editor are a little poor in version 3.
They're like, yeah, sometimes they work, sometimes they don't.
So I've never had a problem with if you just.
Like, no, if you do cards you don't own and stuff like that.
Oh yeah, but if you're building, if you just filter, I'm gonna build my deck for standard, and I filter standard, you're not gonna see Planeswalker Legacy, any of those. It filters out all gold border cards. So.
No, it would be nice if.
That's teaching players how to use, I think, the system a little bit better, because it's not. You go back to why don't people know how to do that? Because the client doesn't ever teach you how to do that, right? It's not intuitive. There are lots of ways you can start fixing that problem before you need a shredder.
It would be great if the filter was saved when you restart the program.
Indeed.
Yeah.
Also, it would be great if your deck stayed in the layout that you saved it as instead of coming in as 3 columns.
Indeed.
Or if it actually loaded from NetDex the first time around.
Indeed.
Yes.
I'd like to see if we can come up with a question so wacky they haven't previously considered it. No?
Yeah, Marshall?
Leagues. What would a discussion about MTGO be without worse leagues? So I want it straight. Is it because they cannibalize drafts and they're not as profitable? Is that why we're not seeing them? Or is it really just because they're lower priority than the interface and the big hitting things? Because we went from having them to not having them with which is normally like a huge no-no, right?
Yep,
and
absolutely.
And have them come back, and so it makes me think that either you guys are just so busy on 4 that it's just like, let's just wait, or that you guys looked at the numbers and said, look, people come in and they're paying X dollars and they're getting tons of value for this and they're not doing anything else. And if they come in and draft and it's more profitable, or it's the first thing.
So it's definitely 2 parts. If leagues were as important to the business as we thought they were when they went away, they would be back. Absolutely. Because the impact to the business pushes them up the priority list. Period. When you have things like the new client that take precedence, like when we launched V3, we thought that it would be fine and we wouldn't have to have this discussion again later, right? So that priority list gets adjusted, and every time a issue pops up that needs to be fixed, we take that big list and we go, all right, where are we going to slot these things? And the other piece is it's a big piece of work still. It's not
Big piece of work.
work. Oh, it's not an insignificant amount of development time to spend on it.
Right. Yeah. And like I was saying, we're chopped into 3 segments. That's often our feature pipe.
Yeah.
We've got to definitely have to get the client out. So,
Yeah, so like I said, we look at it, we prioritize it, and we have it currently prioritized at a place that we're comfortable with, and when the next big project hits us, either from business idea or from some other place, brand or R&D or something, we look at that list again and we go, all right, where does this fit in the list? What has to move? And that's where League sits. We will have leagues back in Magic Online, absolutely. It is an important piece of the business because it speaks to the time element for a lot of our players who are older and want to have a meaningful tournament experience spread over the course of days or weeks.
It's also a good beginner.
Yes, it's absolutely critical for us to have those back at some point. They are very good for beginners, but because our beginner experience is so terrible right now, it's another reason why they're pushed down the list. It's like, what's the point in having leagues which are great for beginners if they're going to, churn out before they even get to a league? There's no point.
Yeah, great. Thanks.
So you guys saw a little bit of the UI stuff upstairs on the wall. Did you bring the book down?
I did not bring the book down.
Okay.
The golf book.
It's
The
just
book?
It's just a book of
It's
screenies and different scenes.
Yeah, design shots from the stuff from what was on the wall. I don't know if you ever found some of the multiplayer ones.
I did not. I got pulled into meetings.
Yep.
So I heard that you guys were switching the live series, like are getting rid of them or something.
So yeah, live series is the
The premiere event, like Magic Online.
so the last year and a half up through was the first Pro Tour this year, Luis. What was the first Pro Tour this year?
What was the first Pro Tour?
Yeah.
Paris.
Paris. So up through Paris, we had some version of the live series at shows, where it was a series of league tournaments where the winner could get, I think it was
It's like a lot.
it was a $5,000 prize pool split among the top 8 players.
Spoil sets and stuff.
Yeah. So that just doesn't have the impact at the shows that we wanted it to.
Especially with Pro Tours being private next year.
Yeah, well, even with Pro Tours not private, what happens is, the live series stuff ran Thursday, Friday, Saturday, or Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and what you have is you have a bunch of pros who are playing in the main event, so nobody shows up. Then the last day, after everybody's scrubbed out, you get this huge list of guys who want to play in the last one of 4 of these live events. And so it just wasn't doing what we wanted to do. We changed it a little bit for Paris, where I think we just did sets, or we did something open play, or something crazy.
That weekend was pretty busy after that.
Yeah, and I wasn't there. And then after that, we just stopped shipping computers to the Pro Tours, and we're looking at something else we can do. We'll have computers at Gen Con this year. We'll have computers at PAX this year, where we'll be just doing like drafts and seals for a paper set. So it's lower key. But
It seemed like the prize payout versus impact of the tournament was not a good fit.
it was not.
It was awesome.
It was great for the 12 guys who could play.
That was me.
Did you win one?
I top 8'd the one at PAX last year.
Okay. Yeah.
I'm like, wait, I get 250 if I bust out right now? And
Yeah.
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 Okay.
So like I said, huge impact for 12 guys. Not so much for anybody else.
For the cons and stuff, like what is Magic Online? Like I know that Wizards, like clearly at Gen Con, are gonna have you're like the main supporter or whatever.
Yeah,
because of
we're a big sponsor for
But like, what does Magic Online do? Because I know like
so at the bigger shows like that, we just want people to know that Magic Online exists, and that there's a huge percentage of Magic Online players who don't play paper because they don't have the time or the ability to get to a store. They don't have a play group anymore, and we want to make sure that they know that there is a way for them to play Magic that is real Magic, that does everything that paper Magic does, but they can do on their schedule, from their living room or den. We have a den. So, and it's just about, as Gordon's team delivers great new features and content and UI, and we'll be spreading that message more and more over time. There's no reason why everybody who likes Magic that can't or who either can't play paper, or wants to do both, or wants to practice for high-level events, which is what another thing the Magic Line is great for. Better than a local shop a lot of times, unless you happen to have a shop that has a lot of pros that are good competition anyway. You really improve your skills online, and Bing knows that.
Oh, yeah.
He has a little experience on high-level play there. So.
Me being played against us 5 years ago.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that was back before you were made your core tour.
So,
Were you seeing more of the UI, or was that?
So I can go grab the book real quick. It's not, like I said, if you looked closely at the wall, it's not a whole lot different from there. What I was really hoping to show off was some of the new way we're treating the multiplayer stuff. There's one screenshot that you get to see that shows it a little bit. So yeah, we can do that. And then we should head out. I need to make a call and make sure that a local restaurant has room for 20 of us.
All right.
For lunch. No, I think we'll just go crash Jimmy Mac's. I'll give him an hour notice or whatever, half an hour notice. Say we're going to have.
That's plenty of time.
That'll work. 17 people. Can we at least have tables that are close to each other? So,
Want me to grab it?
yeah.
Who's the person on the UI team that's in love with the brown color scheme?
Oh, brown.
So the brown that you're seeing is for the Nicol Bolas scene, and it's brown and gold. It's the colors of his frame essentially. The other, if you looked at the other ones, there's no brown in the other skins.
Make price.
We will be launching with at least a couple choices, if not all of the choices.